we're here to talk about the blocks directory and the blocks that comprise the blocks directory. As you heard this morning, we unveiled a bunch of new types of blocks, which only sort of diversifies the offerings and really increases the amount of cool stuff that you can do with blocks in the blocks directory. How many people have checked out the blocks directory in their life ever? Half-ish people. How many people are actually currently using a block or blocks on their Looker instance? There are people in the back. All right, OK, OK. So that number means that the vast majority of you here are not getting as much value out of Looker as you could be. I'm sorry to be the one to break this to you, but it is true. Blocks are a big deal. They're really at the core of why Looker is powerful and why Looker can help you accomplish your goals. The thing about blocks is, Looker uses LookML and is a sort of open platform. And what that means is we at Looker, who deal with hundreds of customers, can see the things that they are doing over and over. We can reduce the effort because instead of making you do that thing over and over, we can just give you what someone else has told us they needed to do with your Salesforce data or to get a median. We can improve the reusability because we're giving you code that you can then reuse throughout your ecosystem. It's all about accelerating your time to value so that we're not giving you a Looker instance that's clean, that's empty of content, but rather one that is full of best practices that we've learned from working with all these customers. The thing about blocks is they're not a black box. It's not we give you the blocks code and you are then stuck with it. It's just code. It's just LookML, right? So you pull it out of GitHub usually, and then you can go hog wild with it, right? So it's not, oh, you have Salesforce data, and your Salesforce data, we assume looks like this, and so we will transform it this way, and if that's wrong, too bad. It's you have Salesforce data, most people do. We know that your Salesforce data probably looks mostly like everybody else's, but a little bit different, because I'll be honest, everybody's Salesforce data looks a little bit different. We can give you the Salesforce block that matches however you're pulling that data into your data warehouse or your database, get you 90% of the way there, and then you do the 10% extra customization, right? But now you've saved 90% of that effort. And as we've said on stage this morning, as we said in the deep dive this morning, you all influence what blocks we choose to build. And you directly influence it from here at Join, because if you have not already, you should go to the product feedback wall and put your sticker next to the blocks that you would like to see us build, right? You absolutely influence it because we don't want to put blocks in the blocks directory that no one's using. We want to say, oh, we keep seeing these customers run up against this same problem. Let's take that, package it up, and just make it available so that everybody can take advantage. So that's what blocks are all about. So the blocks directory looks different as of this morning because there are more types. So we have analytic blocks, we have source blocks, we have data blocks, we have data tools, we have viz blocks, and we have embedded blocks. And we have three great experts here with me today who are going to join me in talking through what each of these block types is and how it can help you get more value out of Looker. Sound good? Yeah? Everybody with me? Are you excited yet? All right, I got 2 woos, so that's good. That's a start. By the end, hopefully, we'll be up to 7 or 8. So the first type of block that I'm going to go over is a brand new one, rolled out this morning, viz blocks. So the idea here is custom visualizations have always been something that you could do on Looker. Except you had to have 2 things. One, you had to be hosting your own Looker instance on-premise, which most customers don't. And 2, you had to have enough D3 and JavaScript know-how to write the visualization to plug into your Looker. Lots of customers do have that. Lots of customers are hosting on-premise, and they're already using custom visualizations. But way more customers are not getting the value out of this, right? And we know that there are more visualizations, more specialized types of visualizations for special types of data. that people would like to be able to access and put in their Looker instance. So what we've done is we've taken the ones that we knew were the most in demand, we've built those, and we've made it so that they're available on any Looker instance. And it's not, now we are making these extra 10 visualizations available, and that will be it until we add more to the library. You still can put any kind of custom visualization on your Looker, but now you're not restricted to having to host it yourself. So if you have somebody who can write you a D3 visualization or a JavaScript-based visualization that does exactly what you need, that's great. You can put it on your Looker as of Looker 5. This, I think, really opens up the ability to give people exactly the kind of visualization to effectively communicate all the value in the data that they're bringing, right? Because data is kind of useless to most people, right? You show them a table, You show them a visualization. Humans are very visual animals. It connects with people. They get a lot more out of it. So let me show you what some of these visualizations in the library look like. So we built a reorderable matrix. So this is something that folks use a lot when they're comparing different kinds of event streams. They want to see, OK, if someone does this first, what do they do second? They want to see how that sort of heat map works. We give you a collapsible tree, because there are lots of sort of nested types of data that this is really useful for exploring, hierarchical sets of data that this is useful for exploring. We give you a sunburst, because as Jamie said this morning, if you're a product person or a marketing manager and you're trying to understand how are people moving through my website, OK, they go to the home page, then they go to the product page, then they go to the shopping cart, and then they fall out. Sunburst is a great visualization for understanding that. We give you a Sankey diagram, another way to visualize flows through sessions. We give you a chord diagram, so you can visualize flows or airline flights and connections between destinations, all kinds of new data types that really are not well covered by the visualizations that come shipped with every Looker, now are covered by these. And finally, we give you a tree map, so that you can see again those hierarchical relationships. So these all ship to the blocks directory ASAP. They will be available in Looker 5. We hope that you'll use them, and we hope that you'll give us feedback about what other visualization types you need. And I should say, all of these are fully interactive, fully customizable, just like any other visualization that you'd use in Looker. This is not a static visualization. It works just the same as any other visualization. And we hope that you will find new visualization types that would be useful to you. And if you build them, bring them to us if you're willing to share them. We'd love to take a look. And if we think they'd be useful to other customers, we'd love to put them in the blocks directory as well. So that's VizBlocks. So now let me talk quickly about data tools. So data tools are really about curating user experiences to something that's more curated than an explore page, which to some more novice users can be pretty intimidating, right? You just have a field list and then a blank panel, and you have to figure out where to go from there. But they're more flexible, more interactive than a dashboard, where you only have a very limited set of filters. So data tools are really built on parameters, which is a new feature that we've rolled out in 4.22, which is rolling out right now, so that you can curate these experiences focused on a specific task. You can give somebody a tool for solving the problem that they're solving every day. We're shipping some pre-built tools in the blocks directory, but again, fully customizable, and we'll be shipping more. You can vote on what data tools you would like to see us build, and we can't wait to see what you build using parameters. But just to let you know what we're shipping right now, we're shipping a web analytics tool, so that if you have somebody who manages your website and wants to see sessions and page views, and they want to see, oh, I want this rolled up at the hourly level, no, the daily level, and I want to change the filters, that's something that just works. That's going to be right there in Looker for them. Same thing with cohort analytics, where you can, as Jamie showed this morning, you can define how you want to define a cohort and then see how they compare to other cohorts over time. And we've got more in the works. So what this looks like, here's a web analytics tool. You can see those sort of core metrics at the bottom. You've got your page view sessions at the top. Oh, I want to change the filter and make that weekly. Or I want to look at it monthly and see page views versus pages per session. All that just works. OK, so now I'm going to hand it over to Harthi, who's going to tell you a little bit more about what she talked about this morning about data blocks.
So we officially launched data blocks this morning. They're publicly available data sets that we at Looker have cleaned, modeled, maintained. So you grab these data sets from Looker, you grab a model that we also provide, and you combine it with your data to start getting insights. We are launching with these 4 data blocks. I'll go into detail on each of the data blocks, some ways that you can start to combine these data blocks with your own data, and then we'll talk about how you can start getting access to these data blocks. So the first is demographic data from the American Community Survey. So this data is at a very granular level. You're looking at information at the state, county, zip, tract, and then a block group level, which is just very granular and 5 times more granular than just looking at this information at a zip code. And this data set, it contains population information, age, gender, race, income, and so many other metrics that are collected by the American Community Survey. So we took this data set, we combined it with one of our retail data sets to see how purchasing patterns for different brands were affected by income. And so we looked at 2 particular brands, Levi's, Ralph Lauren's, and just by looking at the data, we were able to see that most people, no matter their income, tended to purchase Levi's. But for Ralph Lauren, that didn't tend to be the case. 85% of Ralph Lauren's user base tended to be within the 50,000 to 150,000 income bracket. So we just joined in the ACS data that we had with our retail data set to figure out how income, a particular metric from that data set, was affecting brand usage. We also looked at this information, population information, at a tract level. And so in San Francisco, say we wanted to open up a new store, a new storefront, targeting a certain population. In this case, we looked at users over the age of 65. How exactly would we go about determining where to place stores to attract that demographic? So in the background there, we're looking at percentage of the population that's over the age of 65. So the areas that are darker or more red are areas where you have a significant amount of the population over 65. And so the areas, the circles that we're looking at are where we currently have stores. And so it's easy to tell just by joining in this data set that we probably want to add another store over there. And then in the bottom left-hand corner where we see a lot of yellow, which tells us that we have a lot of users in our demographic that we're trying to target. And so the use cases here are endless, and the data is so granular that your options are really endless. The next data set is the weather data set. I talked a little bit about this earlier today, but we worked with Google to get access to weather data across the US. And this data dates all the way back to 1920, and we are updating it and maintaining it on a daily basis so that you can get access to weather patterns in the past week and the past day. And we've taken this data and we've made it accessible by zip code so that you can easily join in by zip code to any date and kind of get weather patterns for that day, the precipitation, the rainfall, snowfall, and just other characteristics. So we worked with SeatGeek to look at how weather patterns affected their festival listings and how it affected prices and how it compared to other types of events that they tended to host. You can join this data set into any e-commerce data set to even look at how weather patterns affect purchasing patterns to maybe see how, for example, how many raincoats are bought compared to the weather for that particular area. The third data block relates to financial indicators. So this is updated on a monthly, quarterly basis and contains indicators like unemployment, debt, inflation, and interest rates. And so we combined this again with a e-commerce data set to look at how revenue can be adjusted for inflation, and we saw that the actual revenue when looked at compared to today's dollars were significantly different. So how can you start accessing this data? You can go to one of our customer-hosted buckets. You go to GCS or S3 and grab the raw data in its raw form. Or you can get a connection to a Looker database. You can connect to one of our BigQuery instances or our Snowflake instances and get access to that data. And once you've gotten access to the data, you can go into our blocks directory and grab our model for that particular data set and start to extend that model and start creating your own custom metrics for that data. So to get started, you can get access to that data in GCS or S3, or connect to one of our Looker databases. You can import the LookML model, enable model extensions, essentially extend and build off of what we've already built for you, and then start creating your own custom metrics. The next type of block I'm going to talk about are our embedded blocks. Embedded blocks are a way to grant access to data to your customers and your users just outside of the Looker interface. You're bringing the data to the people where they want it in their normal workflow. And embedded blocks come in a variety of different ways. The first is just public embedding. So you can take any report, any dashboard from Looker, embed it onto a public website for anyone to come and play around with that data, and we're powering the visualizations behind that. You can also embed into an internal site like Salesforce or Confluence, and you can take visualizations from Looker, put it in Salesforce or one of those sites to just be a part of the user's workflow. The third type of embedding consists of building your own custom portal for your customers to allow them to authenticate in. And with that type of embedding, you have complete customizability over how you showcase data from Looker. And the first way, which we cover in our blocks, is just being able to use our modeling layer to pull up metrics from Looker. So here, we're using our Looker API to pull in metrics like loyal customers, total revenue, number purchased, and we are then surfacing this data on another site and making that data available. And so our blocks walk you through how to make these API calls and how to render the data in your own site. You can also embed Looker visualizations. So here we've taken an entire dashboard and embedded it onto a customer site. And our blocks, again, walk you through that whole process of how to get a dashboard from Looker and how to embed that iframe into your application. And our blocks also, again, walk you through how to save and schedule and how to create an Explore interface outside of Looker in your own portal. And they walk you through how to set up a full use case for your customers. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Dylan.
Thanks, Arthi. Cool, so I'm going to talk about analytic blocks. And analytic blocks are blocks that are designed just for very specific pieces of analysis. So things like cohorting, retention, period over period, sessionization, stuff a lot of you guys probably have in your instance. This is what analytic blocks were designed for. And they're pretty much just pieces of LookML and SQL blocks, so really easy to package up and deploy. And what's really interesting about analytic blocks is they were actually one of the inspirations for our entire blocks program. So at Looker, across our entire customer base, it's really rare that we see a new type of analysis. Odds are one of our other customers has done this before. So naturally, us analysts would constantly reference old design patterns, old SQL queries, whenever we were getting started with new customers. So we had a mechanism for sharing all that kind of stuff internally. And it was really great because me, as a new analyst, I could start, if a customer requested retention, I could know that not only can I find that pattern, I can be sure it was tested. It's going to be the most pattern, and it's going to be the most effective for the type of analysis that I'm trying to perform here. 3 points about analytic blocks. First, again, it's best practice design pattern, so whatever's most performant, it should be the most suitable for the type of analysis you're doing. Again, tested and proven with a lot of other customers as well, so we know it is the best way to perform that analysis. Lastly, we have dialect-specific analytic blocks. So these are things that utilize user-defined functions. So one example we have is weighted median in BigQuery, and we built that using user-defined function. We have all sorts of those for various dialects across our databases. And what's great about these is we have write-ups and instructions and live demo instances for all of these. So I can go ahead and show you a live demo really quickly. So here we have in our discourse page, discourse is our community forum on Looker. We also have all of these blocks listed again in our blocks directory, so you can navigate to them either way. For each of these, we have a write-up that includes all sorts of information. Shows some visualizations of the analysis. It talks about how to get up and running with this analysis, how to implement the block, the types of data it works with, the actual block code itself, and then people go and comment and add all sorts of questions and stuff, which we respond to. But what's really great is we actually have a live link to this individual report that we're looking at here. So you can go and demo and play with this data yourself. So I'll save you the load time. Oh, sweet. So here is just a full embedded Explorer experience. It's the same Explorer you'd get any other time you're using Looker. This is publicly available, so anyone can come in and just start playing with some stuff on their own. You can substitute fields just like you would any other normal Looker experience. So say I want to look at my total amount spend, and instead of my percent active, now instead of seeing percent, I'm seeing how much each of my user cohorts spent over the last 12 months. So again, I can go and cut and slice this further as much as I wanted to. Retention, say I wanted to look at this by our source, how we acquired those customers, which medium is the best for retaining them. I could add some fields. I'll spare you all the work, but essentially just add some filters and fields, and we can see that, oh, it looks like our customers that are coming in through search are constantly being better retained than those coming through display for whatever reason that might be. So we have about 30 of these analytic blocks open so far. Our customers and partners are constantly contributing to these. And there's again, there's full write-ups on our discourse and web pages, so I encourage you to go check all of these out. And with that, I'll hand it off to Aaron, who's going to talk about source blocks.
OK, so I'm going to present on source blocks. So source blocks are LookML templates for expected data sources. So think sources with common tables, common fields that we can model in advance to provide quick time to value. So that includes establishing table relationships, key metrics, as well as dashboards that we think will be useful for all of our customers utilizing both Looker and that source product. So these are created not only by Looker, but also in conjunction with our partners who have key knowledge about their sources, and then oftentimes with feedback from our existing customer base who's using these blocks in their own business. So just to give you an overview of our currently available source blocks, I've grouped them into 3 categories. So the first category is web analytics and personalization. So this is really where our source block program started. We realized that analyzing event data was pretty challenging, and that our partners had common data structures that a lot of our customers were using. So we worked with Segment, with Heap, with Snowplow on developing some of these blocks to make web analytics just more accessible and easy to start from in Looker. We then took that same concept and applied it to business tools. I know this is a broad category, but really just tools that our customers were using to drive their business that they also wanted to analyze the data from in Looker. And through our ETL partners, as well as just scripting that data and having it in their data warehouse themselves, we were able to work with them, work with our own use of our own data sources like Salesforce, like Zendesk, to build blocks for those tools as well. And then ultimately, you can customize those to join that data to other data sources as well. And then finally, we're seeing a lot of demand for marketing and advertising data. So partners like Google have made this really easy to get sources like AdWords and DoubleClick into BigQuery. Additional partners like Tengen and Imprivado make it really easy to get other sources in your data warehouse as well. And then we've just created a template to make it easy to look at overall campaign metrics like impressions, like clicks, conversions, and then you can ultimately join that to other sources and look at things like cost. So just to provide an example of a source block, I figured I would cover Segment, who's one of our sponsors at this event, and also one of the first partnerships I worked on at Looker, and one of the first blocks that I helped develop. So if you're unfamiliar with what Segment does, they help you track your data from one place and then send it to their library of integrations, so tools that you use to run your business. Ultimately, they decided to make this data available to their customers in a data warehouse. And from that, we were able to create a web analytics block to help you get started with Segment. So some things that the block helps you do is map your user IDs to one universal user ID, so you can track your users across visits as well as across their lifetime on your application. You can take these mapped user IDs and you can create the notion of a session. So sessionizing events into a visit, with a period of inactivity, marking the end of that session so you can look and see what they've done within the confines of the visit to your application. And then finally, taking those mapped users, taking those sessions that you've created in Looker, and then using them for more advanced analysis, like creating funnels, like doing cohort analysis, and things like that. So what has this block led to? So in addition to making it really easy to analyze web analytics data, we've worked with Segment to make sure that our mutual customers are having a great experience in Looker across all their products. So as they made their warehouses of data available in other sources like Postgres, like BigQuery, we've adapted the block to support those as well. Additionally, they've launched data sources, which include SaaS applications like Salesforce, Stripe, Google AdWords, Facebook ads. We have blocks for all of those that are either available on our directory or will be launched soon. And then finally, Segment was one of our first partners to participate in our newly launched Action Hub. So you can actually take the analysis that you've completed through the blocks, so the web analytics data, your sources data, and act on it by actually sending the results of those analyses back to Looker. So as an example, you could create a list of users in Looker and then send that back to Segment, and then through Segment send it to Marketo to launch a campaign or something like that based on analysis you completed in Looker. So really completing the loop there. And with that, I'll pass it back to Daniel.
Thanks, Aaron. I used to be a customer. I was a very early customer of Looker's. And back then, blocks wasn't a thing. I feel like we had to walk uphill both ways in the snow. We had to build our own ETL pipeline because none of our great partners existed. And we had to build our own sort of LookML to interpret that data and all that. I'm probably not supposed to insult the audience, but you would be crazy to do that now. If you are using one of these sources, if you are trying to accomplish one of these analyses, if you are trying to use one of these visualizations, you can get 90% of the way there. You may be able to get 100% of the way there by grabbing one of these blocks. They're free, they're available, they will spark ideas for you that you may not have even thought were possible. Because I know the thing about LookML is it's based on SQL. It's a wrapper around SQL, right? And so lots of people think, well, SQL is great for some things and terrible at other things. You wouldn't build a recommender system in SQL. And that's true. You would be crazy to build a recommender system in SQL. But you actually can do it in LookML because LookML lets Looker write the SQL for you. And while it's not SQL that a human would want to write, it's totally fine for Looker to write it. It's a pretty concise LookML model, so it can say, oh, this song is like this song, and so I will recommend this one. You can do that in LookML. You can do retention analysis. You can do Kaplan-Meier survival analysis in LookML. We have blocks for all of these things. They will simplify your analytics because they will let you do things in really concise, nice ways because you get to benefit from all of the knowledge that all of the other people here have gained over their years of using Looker. They will let you reuse this stuff and benefit actually not just from what the current state of the block is, but what future states of the block are, because as we update that, you benefit from those updates. You can merge those in. And of course, they'll accelerate your analytics, right? We had to figure out how to sessionize our data when I was a customer. That was a pain. It took a while to figure out how could we do that in a performant way. You don't have to do that now. You can just grab the code and go. So I really encourage everybody to go check out the blocks directory. It is a huge resource. I want to see everybody using it. I think you will all get so much more value from Looker, and the people that you serve at your companies will get so much more value from Looker if you take advantage of this stuff.